Good afternoon, good morning, everyone, depending on what time zone you're in. My name is Robert Foray. I am an account manager here at Imagine Technologies for the facilities management team. I've been with Imagine since about 2008, working with not only government entities from federal to municipalities, but also healthcare, higher education, and corporate customers and clients. Along with me, with co-hosting the presentation is my colleague, Jeff Van Fleet. Jeff, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Rob. Good afternoon. My name's Jeff Van Fleet, and been here at Imagine It for about 9 years. Also spent a lot of time working with folks in the federal, state, and local government sectors, along with healthcare, higher ed, and corporate clients as well.
And Fulton Hartzog, he's our senior technical consultant. He will be driving the software presentation. You want to give yourself a little introduction?
Hello, my name's Fulton, and I've been with the company for 31 years. And as you can see in the picture, I've aged quite a bit, but hopefully I can still think well enough to show you the software.
Thank you, Fulton. Here's the webcast agenda today. The introduction will be short, a little bit of background about our company, Imagine Technologies, a little bit about Archibus, specifically Archibus asset applications, and there's a couple that I'm going to briefly describe. From that, we will go into the software presentation from Fulton. Then Jeff will take over from there, and we'll do a summary of the asset presentation, and go back and forth about some of our client success stories in the government field that is using the Archibus system. Then finally, Q&A at the end. So without further ado, I will begin. A little bit about Imagine It as a company. Imagine Technologies is a subsidiary of RAND Worldwide subsidiary. There's a couple other companies underneath that banner. But basically, we have been in the facilities management realm about 30 years, starting with Fulton. As from Fulton previously said, he's been doing this for 31 years. Our largest division is our Autodesk side, and we are an Autodesk Platinum partner. We're North America's largest Autodesk partner. And on the Archibus side, we are also an Archibus Platinum partner. You may or may not know, but Archibus is a product, used to be a company, but it is actually a product of Space IQ now. Space IQ has been a merger of several companies, and there are about 4 offerings under the Space IQ banner. But today we're going to be talking about Archibus, which is an IWMS system, which I will go into a little bit later. Our consultants, and we call our technical folks consultants, average about 10 years of experience, Fulton being one of the most senior technical consultant. So as a company, we offer tools and services to help organizations from design to build to operate, the full life cycle of an asset, building asset, equipment asset, whatever. Today, we will be focusing on the operations side. A little bit about Archibus. Archibus is Space IQ's only IWMS offering, and IWMS is Integrated Workplace Management System. Basically, it is a facilities management system on steroids. Traditionally, facilities management is a work order system, space management, but there's a lot of other functionality and applications under the single software Archibus. And you can see all the offerings that it has on this screen. But today we will be focusing on the bottom here. The asset, Archibus has it bundled into our asset maintenance management, but we will be focusing on the asset side, which in most cases is tied to a maintenance management system or activities of some sort. So in Archibus's world, asset management, Archibus actually offers 3 types of asset management tools. One is called Asset Portal, which is very basic. But what we're going to focus on is the asset management. The asset management basically is a tool to optimize the use of all assets throughout its full operational life cycle, basically in a nutshell, from acceptance through operation through the either repurposing or the disposal of the asset. And I think most organizations, that's typically the definition and use of asset management. Enterprise assets or enterprise asset management, which is an offering by Archibus, not only takes those types of asset management activities and tools tied traditionally to equipment, but also ties that into real estate portfolio, financial tools that your organization may be using, tying in that information to do to macro type of analyses and reporting to the organizational hierarchy. So it's much more robust. There's a lot of data driven there. But we're going to be focusing on just the asset management. So assets, just kind of give you a definition. In Archibus's world, there are 3 types of assets that can be separated into 3 groups. One is IT assets, and Archibus offers a separate IT console, IT asset console. Equipment assets, which everyone, HVA systems, air handlers, those types of equipment. And also Archibus separates out furniture assets, and especially in the corporate world, a lot of corporations manage furniture, because if you ever priced out furniture from those furniture vendors, it's very expensive. So they want to manage that somehow. But as I said earlier, from an asset perspective, organizations are interested in from acquisition, in taking that asset, whether it's by barcode or however it may be, through the use of that asset in the most efficient manner, utilization, reporting on key metrics, and then finally either the repurposing or disposition of that asset. And there's those standard asset type of exercise that's included in the software, including depreciation schedules and things like that. So that's what we're going to be focusing on, and Fulton's going to give a kind of a high level overview of the asset application. We're not going to go too deep into the weeds here, because we could sit here half the day doing that. So if you have any questions at this point, please type them in. Otherwise, I'm going to hand this over to Fulton for the software presentation. Thank you.
Okay, good. So this is when you log into Archibus. There's a home screen that you come into. It's configurable. This one has some information that might be relevant to how you do your asset tracking, things like active work requests or maintenance costs by month. So these things can be kind of presented as a quick view of what you've got going on. Then you have some navigation standpoint. We have a navigator over here on the left. We have a home page. We have a way to search for things. You can have a set of favorites that you choose as you go through, and you're able to keep up with those. And then you have several domains that Archibus has, and within those domains are applications. So one of the applications is assets, and we're going to focus in on that today. We have an asset management and then enterprise asset management. We're going to focus again on asset management. So I'm going to start just with the asset registration console. The first thing when you receive an asset is to get it in your system, and you can do one or more assets here using the tools that Archibus has provided, or you can go to a more direct approach and just create a new record in a different view. So when we go in, we have 4 kinds of assets that we can choose from: properties, buildings, equipment, and furniture. Just a couple of things about each of those. Property is focused on the land that you own, and it can also include parcels, but it's basically a description of the ground that you have. A building is something that is a structure that is put on that ground. There can also be some other types of properties like towers, if you had cell towers or other other little or non building kind of things, that we have a way to track those as well. Then you have equipment, which covers any kind of equipment that you have. It could be building equipment like HVAC or plumbing or all those kind of things, or it could be IT type equipment like computers and that kind of thing. In the government realm, I know that it's important to track property, and often there's a custodian, and Archibus covers that information as well. So not only can you have what department it belongs to and where it was located, but you also can have any number of people that are associated with it in various roles. And then you have furniture. Furniture is comes in two varieties. One is tagged furniture, where you're tracking a very specific piece of furniture, and you want to really know everything about that particular thing. And the other is to do it by standard. And this would be the idea here is kind of like a set of chairs in a conference room. They're all the same. You don't really care about which one's which, but you want to track them as a whole. And so you can do that through using furniture standards. And then you get a count per floor. So when you want to create a new item, you can come here and you can just go with the next number. So here we have the last number. It goes and finds out what that is. Or you can start with a prefix. So if we put in AHU as the prefix, then it's going to go find the last one that we did with AHU. So here we're just adding one asset. We could also do this in multiples. And if we had chosen the multiple button, then we would have clicked here and said there's going to be 10 of those. So when you bring in 10, you can do them all in one swoop. In addition to that, you'd be able to add some other information as it's coming in. So I'm just going to go here and go next. And then this gives us a view of the various kinds of fields that you can track with this particular piece of equipment. The only thing we have to have is this equipment code. Everything else is supporting that code. So when you save it, now everything becomes available. You see the top line here are a variety of fields that can be tracked in the assets. So we have equipment code. You also would have an equipment standard. So here we can look for air handler unit. And this can have other effects for us as we go down the line as well. You also notice it puts in the classification code, in this case, master format, showing the classification number. If it's associated with another piece of equipment, this is one way you can say this is a subcomponent of another piece of equipment. You also have model number, serial number, all the kinds of things that you'd be interested in adding to that. You can also have a survey photo, and we're going to look at surveys in a few minutes. But you have the ability to take a photo when you go out in the field using your mobile device, and then that would be uploaded back here. You can add other attributes. So and you can decide yourself what the list is going to be here. In this case, it's mostly about capacity or some kind of quantity, although you do have a couple of makes and types. But you can control this list yourself and be able to choose from it. So not only do you put that in, then you also have a value. So if you pick, I should have picked the capacity. So if I had capacity, and maybe that's BTUs, so maybe I put in 25,000 here as a value, and then save that, and that becomes a part of this record as well. Going down the line, we can also, or one other thing is we can configure fields from here. So if you want to add a field to, and then promote it to the view where you can see it and edit data in it and that kind of thing, then you can do that here from this view. So when I come to the location and affiliation, I can put it into a particular location. Here I can go to a site, and I'm going to go to the market site here. And then I can go further and put in the building code, so that shows me the list of buildings that are on that site. And then I can go, if it's on a particular floor, see the list of floors that are there, and put that in. And then if it had a room, or if it's located near a column, or all those kind of things that make it easy for you to find, you can do that. Plus, it has the ability to do it in a with a geocode, so you can locate it that way as well. You can track its affiliation with, in terms of the organization it belongs to, or the employees, or a specific employee that that particular one's involved with. And then you can also have other custodians, owner custodians, and other custodians, people maybe outside the organization that you want to keep track of. And you can add that and keep a list of those people available as you go. You can also track things about usage. So we have equipment use, what condition it's in right now, how long we expect it to go, what its last meter reading was. All these things are things you can catch when you're on doing surveys. You also have costs, so the initial cost of the item, the cost to replace it. We're going to look at depreciation number in number of years that it's being depreciated, and then you'll have that value fill in here when we run the depreciation. You can keep up with the purchase information on the PO, what vendor it was, if it was leased, and also warranty information, service contract information, and insurance policies. Then you can look at any number of documents that you might want to add. There's some specific ones in the top here, but you can add all the manuals, everything you want. And then also on the equipment standards, we can add manuals, and those can be delivered to the PMs that go along with it, with a piece of equipment. You have all the dates that are relevant to that particular piece of equipment. If it has telecom connections, then you can track those connections. And then we're going to look at the survey. If you have other information coming from other systems, those things can be added. And then we mentioned other fields, which right now we only have this one. Well, we don't have any new fields added yet. So I'm just going to save and close. And so that record is now complete. You can also have it relate to other things in building systems. So here we have system assignments in the middle. When I click on a particular assignment, it shows me that information about that top piece of equipment. Again, you see a team down here, custodians, and the spaces it serves. So you see lots of information about that. And then as you click into the specific components, you see it shows me not only the a picture of the item, but it also gives me some of the other information we're used to. We can go edit that where we were a minute ago. And you also have drawings involved. Now you can look at drawings, or you can also look at 3D navigation. So in this is just giving us some items that we can work with, but you see the item in space. You can click on the item and then right click, and you can get information on that item or launch things that you would want to do with that item. So here it would say room served, equipment system, dependencies, view property selected. There also, you could have here, I want to start a work order from this by clicking on this item. So then you can as we go down the line here, we can begin to look at surveys. So once we have the equipment in the system and we want to kind of check on them every so often, we can build a list that we're going out for April, and we're going to look at items in this particular building, which happens to be the same one we looked at a minute ago. And so you have a full list of those items. You can take out a laptop and you can work through these items simply by editing from here, and you put in the information that you want. And then if you took a photo in the field and you didn't have it from your laptop, if you weren't using the mobile device, then you can drag and drop those items in here. But you can also do this from a mobile device. So again, we go into the asset and equipment survey. We see that same survey here. And now we can click into these individual items, make our changes, or just confirm that that one, date last survey now is this date. We could take a picture and attach the picture. And now down here at the bottom, you see the documents is set to 1. So you can see that here. If you want to delete it before you resync it, you can do that. And then once you're complete, then you're back to the list and you see it changes color, so you know which ones you've visited, and you can continue through the list until you get through. You can also sync as you go. And then that information is put back into Web Central. And let me refresh that. Well, I'm not getting very long to work here, am I? So here we would see the detail that the date last survey was updated here, and we also have a photo that was added. That photo can be viewed from here or can be displayed in other places as well. So those are the kind of the two big activities that you're going to be doing: bringing data in, and then bringing data or making sure that those assets are there. There are also other tools like condition assessment where you can go through and look at these same pieces of equipment, determine how much effort it would take to repair them and that kind of thing, and build a list of what you need to do over time. Then we also have a lifecycle console, and this kind of brings everything together. So you have all of your assets in this particular realm. So you have a complete list, not only of your buildings, equipment, property, and furniture. You also have a count. You have the depreciated value, the market value, the replacement cost. All of these things can be tracked, and you can click on them. And well, I'll do it over here. So I can click here under buildings and hit filter. And now I'm just looking at the buildings themselves. This gives me the full list of buildings here with their asset codes and all the information that we have about that. The building assets have a different set of data that they are tracking because they're really a different kind of asset. So you see you have a number of fields here. You can also track custodians and other ownership relationships or transactions here. You can geocode from here and you see it pops in a value, and you can also go back in and locate that particular item on the map. And if you don't like where that dot is, then you can put it in another place and save it, and it'll modify the list. You have costs again, documents, and then in this one you have a list of building contacts that you can track. So here you have a kind of a quick summary of your entire asset list and be able to see how much, what the value of it is and all that. You can also work in life cycle management. So here a little bit different navigation where we can start from the world level if you have multiple countries that you operate in. If you're more in one country, then you might just go with location. So here we're starting with site. So if I go back to that market site and open it up, then I see the market site. It's the two buildings that are in that site, and then within the buildings are the floors for that particular site. You can also see down here that you have activities that may be related to that particular item. So it gives you a list of what those activities might be. And all these again are interactive, so you can see the specific activity as well. So in this case, you've got projects that are associated with this for commissioning. You could also have work requests that are associated with that, so you can see a full picture of the costs that you're incurring as you go through daily activities. You can also see those activities that were recently closed. They wouldn't be a part of the current activity. They'd be ones that had been done and archived. And then all the ones that are that have been archived. And then you have transactions here. So you have asset history, see something of what's gone on with it through its time, and then ownership transactions. So whenever you buy or sell, then you can track those. There's also some metrics to work with. And for the first time, we're getting to see things kind of appear here in the map. But all this is helpful as well. All these are active, so they're showing as green. And as you click into one, then you can get information that's relevant to what we are interested in. And this is all configurable, by the way. And then you can zoom in to it, and then you've got the ability to look at that and see portfolio metrics here, risk mitigation information. If we go here to, again, seeing a building profile, information about that. So you have a lot of information here. You can also do exception reports and then analysis on the relationships. So this goes back to that view that we saw a little bit earlier, where you're looking at the whole system and then the pieces of the system. And you have a disposal console as well. And this gives you the ability to track specifically how you decide to work with those assets. So here we have, again, kind of a site plan of where that particular building is, and then information about it, descriptions of services there, and the values. So this is just general information again. And then you can do actions. So you can mark for action, and then mark for evaluation, mark for disposal. So you have the ability to track that down and put it together. Wherever you see a gear, that means that there's fields that you can choose from that are not showing, or you can take fields off the screen that you don't want to see. And then you can also refresh from here. You can add a new asset from here if you want to. You can also export data either to a Word document or to an Excel file. So then when you have an asset that you've marked for disposal, you can evaluate it. So you're looking at this particular device and you have information about that device, and you can determine what your next action is going to be. So again, pending actions are marked for disposal or NA. Then you can come to manage the asset disposal. So we're marking it for disposal and update and execute. And then you see that that went away from this list at the top there. And the records are not gone. It's just been marked so that it can be put into, get out of your way because it's no longer being used by your organization. You can also update your inventory from here, do exception reports, and again, relationship analysis. And a word about depreciation. Here you can come in and set up the depreciation schedules. So when you pick a particular asset, it's going to have, let's find one that's got some data on it. So as depreciate, so this is the kind of a history of how that has been run. So closing for months through 2016, and then the accumulated depreciation and the current value and the expense. So you have options about how you do that. You can either do it in a straight line, double declining, sum of years, digits, or percentage. And then you run equipment, it doesn't automatically run the updates. You choose when to do that, and then it keeps a log of that for you. Just a couple of, well, something that then becomes helpful to you is a view that is called the Global Portfolio Dashboard. And so you have contributing to this, all those assets that we've been looking at. So here we have 177 buildings. You see them across the world in this particular project. You have values. This is kind of focused a little bit on buildings, but you also have operating costs that can be derived from Archibus or brought in from other systems. You have building uses, you have lease expirations, and again, this is configurable to could be showing a lot of different other types of information or different types of assets or different components of this dashboard. And then as you zoom in, so if we zoom into the Americas, then we see just the Americas represented and everything else in the view responds to that. So now we're down to 120 buildings, the area is less, and everything's shown here. Again, you've got colors, so you have these colors mean or have to do with building use. And so you can see that the yellow ones are office buildings, the purple is a warehouse. So you can track on a map everything that you own and be able to see that information. You can also get it in a report form. And you can keep on going down into it where if we go to the Americas and we pick a country, and if we zoom in on a particular site, and we see just the 2 buildings that are on that particular site. So that's some of the information you can work with in the asset portal. It's about inventory and then maintaining those assets, keeping up with where they are and what they have. We also have a maintenance system here where you can do corrective maintenance on those items and or preventive maintenance on those items. So thanks for listening to this, and hopefully we've given you some information that you can chew on.
Thank you very much, Fulton. I know that was a lot of information, but I know you were only able to just barely scratch the surface of what kind of functionality we can expect to receive from the Archibus tool. We've got a lot of different customers who've taken the plunge on asset management. Wanted to highlight a couple of different cases. I know, Rob, you've got one particular client in particular that we wanted to talk a little bit about was the city of Baltimore and how they're using asset management there within their portfolio of space. So
Yeah.
what kind of tools or what are they doing? How long have they been using Archibus? Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Sure, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, the city of Baltimore, initially, this initiative started about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, by the time it was through an energy management initiative. And one of the things that they wanted to do was, from an energy management perspective, is get a handle on their space in their buildings, and also then some of the energy energy using assets. So the city has about 2,400 buildings, and about right now, currently, they have about 4,300 assets in the system. Everything from equipment assets, what you expect from a municipality, HVAC systems, generators, air handlers. They even have AEDs, this automatic heart defibrillators, and also high-value IT assets as they assign them to employees. I think from that perspective, they just want to track where they have been assigned to. So with that, currently that's what they have. They're constantly expanding. They do have mobile capabilities, so and they're using the system. The Archibus system, that's what they started with, but they are delving into the other functionality that the system has.
Very good. And are they, is the asset management portion application, is it integrated with their work order management system where they can go out and actually use the 2 tools together to maintain their assets and track that information?
Yeah, that's actually, interestingly enough, they obviously this is the Department of General Services, they had a work order system in place at the time, and initially, I think if I remember correctly, again, this was 10 years ago, they want to integrate the 2 work order systems as one party was already using it. They were used to it as organizations, and people know. People like what they have and generally don't like change. But they wanted to initiate the Archibus's on demand, the break fix calls, and also the PM's preventive maintenance into the system, which they have. And they've kind of migrated towards the Archibus side because, again, it's one integrated system, easier reporting, tied into their space, all those benefits of an integrated IWMS system. Last time I checked, recently, they do about 500 plus break fix calls, on-demand calls. And on the PM side, they do on a monthly basis more than 100, but as we get into those monthly goes into quarterly PMs, as organizations know that work with this, they wrap up into quarter. Equipment have monthly, quarterlies, potentially semi-annually and annually PMs. They do over 200 preventive maintenance tasks quarterly. And again, they do have the the mobile application, so that they are, some of their folks are out there using their smartphones, tablets, computers, whatever they have, to get their assignments and updates and stuff while they're out in the field.
Wow, that's great. Well, one of my customers is is Mecklenburg County in North Carolina, and they're using Arquebus to certainly track their assets and do on-demand preventative maintenance for those items. One of the unique things that they've done, though, about 5 or 6 years ago, the county moved away from having in-house or having as many in-house technicians to go out and perform maintenance duties, and they moved to an outsourced vendor model. So they divided their portfolio into about 3 different sections and put out solicitation. They've hired 2 contractors to manage the 3 different bundles of portfolio, and so those outsourced vendors are using an Arquebus system to track and maintain their assets, the assets for the county that they're responsible for. And that seems to be a system, seems like a system that's been working very well for them. Another one I wanted to mention is, not, although it's not government, we do a lot, Rob and I both do a lot of work in healthcare and I guess market sector as well. One of my customers is a hospital in Colorado. Being healthcare in the field, they're heavily regulated. They have to go through and do system checks from time to time, make sure they're complying with different regulatory agency directives and things like that. And so they'll do things like where they've got to go through and check their fire extinguishers every month. And so load all the fire extinguishers into the asset management module, create those condition assessment or little surveys that Fulton talked about during the demonstration. And every month, it kicks off the task to go out and evaluate, go through and check the fire extinguishers, make sure that they've been properly serviced, make sure they haven't been used, and then put back up on the hanger. That way, they can show that to their regulatory agencies that, hey, yeah, we've gone through, we've checked them. If there's been an issue, it's been corrected. If they're still good, they're still, everything's good. So we are in compliance. So those are some of the kind of things, we're talking about with the asset management tool, where you can kind of manage the complete asset life cycle. As Fulton showed, you can bring it into the system. Once you get finished with it, you can dispose of it, keep track of the inventory, not only of the component of the entity itself, but if there are maintenance components that you need, like filters or those types of things, you can keep track of some of those parts and pieces in the inventory management system. That way, when you go out to do your maintenance, you've got those parts there on hand, and you can go through and perform your task. Fulton, I think, briefly mentioned, kind of monitoring the performance of those assets. We've certainly integrated with Internet of Things and those types of sensors to monitor performance of assets and report on that. And then, as we mentioned multiple times, you can go through and kind of maintain those assets as you go through. And it really is important to organizations to go through and, aside from employees, your building and your assets are the second most expensive part of your budget. So it really makes sense that you tracking your inventory, maintaining it, and making sure you're a good steward of it, because without those things, your employees can't do the work that you've hired them to do. So you want to make sure that you've got a good environment for them to work in. And if you guys have a question, please enter it into the chat window there, and would be happy to take a look at those.
Or if you want a deeper dive into these modules, we can certainly set up an individual time for that.
Very good. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.